Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello, and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that really wishes that we could talk about WandaVision. That we could talk about WandaVision with, like, spoilers be damned, really wishes that. Now, as the name implies, Netflix vs. Cinema, we usually talk about cinema, and we usually talk about Netflix, talk about which one of them is winning this fight each week for our eyeballs. We usually watch 3 things in cinema, we watch 3 things on Netflix, and we weigh them up against each other and say where our money was better spent that week. Now, it might have escaped your attention. There's a small chance it escaped your attention that we can't really do that. Usually, we can do the cinemas thing. So what we are doing is every week we get together and we talk about what it is we've been watching, how our viewing habits have been changing. But for the cinema thing, I think I'm going to start doing the interviews again. We'll be intermittently doing a film buff interview where we speak to somebody about cinema, and that will be a different show. The interview will be a different show, not part of this show. So this show will be the review show where we'll talk about things online, and then we will do an interview with a film buff where we talk about different things that they see, like the first film they ever saw at the cinema, the last film they caught before the latest lockdown, and questions like that. So, my name is Tosin. I am your host, based up in Bromsgrove in Worcestershire. Joining me on the Isle of Wight, as always, are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that was a bit of a delay. But yeah, so, Sharon and Shaun joining me. Now, we have a couple of things that we've been watching this week that we're going to talk through, that are on the deck. But before we do that, you guys have heard of Empire Magazine, right?
Yes.
You've heard of Empire Magazine, and they have a podcast as well that I have pretty much stopped listening to in the pandemic because I didn't like the idea that I was stealing some of the ideas that we do on this show from what they do. So, and also, there's a bit of me where I think, we've all been, Shaun and I, at Christmas, when we both saw Wonder Woman 1984, we spoke about how it was actually a bit of an emotional experience being back in the cinema. And there's a bit of me that's kind of like, I don't want to listen to you guys talk about cinema when there is no cinema, which I know is a bit hypocritical because we do a podcast about that stuff. And if people are doing that to us, then we have no listeners. But hey, for the 25 of you who are listening, thank you very much. And so we had this thing, and they have written an article. I mentioned WandaVision. Shaun and I have been watching WandaVision. Sharon, I don't think you have been.
No, I don't. Is that Disney Plus?
It's on Disney Plus, yes.
Yes, I don't have that.
It's on Disney Plus, and it's the first MCU TV show that they've done. So, obviously, they were supposed to kick off with Black Widow, but things got pushed off, and they had plans for the Eternals last year, and they were going to bring out WandaVision, and they were going to bring out... this was going to be the first slate of TV shows that are directly linked to the films, like inextricably linked to the films that they have done. And WandaVision is the first one that they've done. And it is a show that in this last 2 episodes has ended up pretty much breaking the internet because people have been like, whoa, what does this mean? And so I just wanted to read a little bit of this because it talks about cinema, it talks about stuff, it talks about a lot of things that we have been talking about. And this is written by a guy called Ben Travis. He says, any Marvel fan remembers the moment they first saw Captain America wield Mjolnir in Avengers Endgame. Sorry, there are some spoilers for the Marvel Cinematic Universe if you have somehow not seen any of those films. I'm sorry, you've had 10 years, we're going for it. So,
too late.
Yeah. Any Marvel fan remembers the moment they first saw Captain America wield Mjolnir in Avengers Endgame, promptly following by entire audiences losing their minds in unison. It was the same for Hulk battering Loki's face into a floor tile in Avengers Assemble, or the stunned silence that accompanied Thanos' universe-shattering snap in Infinity War. When Edgar Wright, the director of the Cornetto trilogy, asked Empire readers to send in their all-time greatest cinema experiences for the latest issue, all of these scenes popped up for a reason. In recent years, the MCU has proven particularly adept at giving us moments. Moments is written in italics. Not just memorable plot turns, but indelible images and perfectly handled playoffs that united audiences in shared outbursts of joy, disbelief, or both. That is the very thing that we're missing right now. Not just the movies that remain long delayed amid the coronavirus pandemic, but the feeling of everyone experiencing something simultaneously. For nearly a year, it's been impossible to sit shoulder to shoulder with a packed audience in front of a big screen. And while streaming has kept us all going through lockdown, sitting separately in our homes with infinite choice of what to watch and when only gives us the movies. It does not give us the moments. But while it's not quite the same, there's one show right now that's finally giving Marvel fans something akin to the moment, to a moment every week. The episode by episode rollout of WandaVision. Now, there isn't much we can say. There isn't much you can say about, but I mean, the fact is that Shaun came on, and the first thing, because, okay, Shaun and I were on the call before Sharon came on, and the first thing Shaun was like, oh my god, WandaVision. Because I think that this show, the first three, I think, quite frankly, Shaun, I think you'd like it because it's no secret that WandaVision has done this whole thing where episode by episode, it's kind of like going through the sitcom. It's like a sitcom history of American sitcoms. So the first episode is pretty much I Love Lucy. Second episode is Bewitched. Third episode is The Brady Bunch. And there's no secret, but what they have done with this show and the way they've linked to it and how they've managed to drop things that make that. There was a moment in the fifth episode that literally made my mouth fall open.
Yeah. That's like that was like literally jaw dropping. It literally was. It was like, what is that? What? Wow!
There's a moment in the fifth episode that is literally jaw dropping. You're like, what? Huh? I remember watching. I was like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk to somebody about what just happened. What just happened? And I just can't believe how these guys have done it. Because, to be honest with you, the first three episodes, there was a lot of complaints. And the rest of this article, which I will not read, but the rest of the article talks about how people were complaining that it was slow. That the show is slow or what's going on. And if it was any other people apart from Marvel, I probably would have not stopped watching maybe around about episode 2. But because it's Marvel, I was like, I trust these guys. These guys, they have something up their sleeve. There's going to be a payoff. There is going to be a payoff. There's going to be a payoff. And oh my God, was there a payoff?
There was a payoff, yeah.
And it's not finished yet because there's only 5 episodes. And we obviously have rules on this show that we don't talk about. We don't talk about series. We talk about, thank you very much, Shaun. We talk about TV series until the series is over, until the season's over. But oh my God, I really wish we could talk about this show. I really wish we could. And I think that and it goes in talking about what we're missing with cinemas and all that. And I think the final paragraph where it comes in, it says, while cinemas remain closed in many parts of the world, this digital water cooler storytelling is the most satisfying viewing experience possible during the pandemic. For now, I'll gladly take WandaVision piece by piece. And I mean, I don't know how they've done it. In an age where we thought it's all about binge watching, they have made something and said, no, you will wait every week. You will stew every week. You will come up with a whole bunch of ideas every week as to exactly what's going on. And we will take our sweet time. And I love them for it. I love them for it. It might be Disney, they might be the family-friendly face of corporate evil, but my God, they know how to make good tea. They know how to tell good stories.
Yeah.
But
it's worth it. Yeah, like you say, with it being the MCU, you knew it was going to be something was going to happen, didn't you? Really?
Yeah.
Even after So.
You know, and what if? There's a bit in episode 4 where they show a whiteboard, and on the whiteboard they have all these questions that show. They have something written on the whiteboard that shows you that they know what you're thinking about the show. It's like there's a character who's written down all these questions. That's pretty much every single question that you have asked yourself watching the show. And you're like, oh my God, these guys know. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. I am so impressed. It's actually quite emotional. It's kind of emotional. I think when I finally see a Marvel film in cinema again, I might cry. Anyway, that's enough about me. Just thought I'll mention that because I know we've been talking about missing cinemas and about the difference between that, and if there's anything that can fill the gap. And I think Marvel have come closest to doing something like that.
Mm. With WandaVision, definitely.
With WandaVision. It just makes you think, okay, what else have they got up their sleeves? Because we got Falcon and Winter Soldier arriving in about a month. Then they have the Loki TV series coming, and they have the Hawkeye TV series, and I am so ready for all of those to see what is it that they have to show us? What is it that they have in store for us? I'm like, okay, fine. You guys, I thought and yeah, anyway.
I mean, they're doing a good job.
I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. I was going to say, but Disney really, they're doing pretty well because I mean, The Mandalorian as well for all those Star Wars fans. You know, I mean, that's the best thing in Star Wars for years.
For years, yeah. It's the best thing in Star Wars. Definitely the live action Star Wars for absolute years.
And there was the jaw dropping. I think we spoke about it, but there was a jaw dropping moment in that. Really,
there was. There was a moment that attempted to break the internet. That when we spoke about The Mandalorian, I spoke about how I wasn't as oh my god
invested.
About that moment as a lot of people were. And Sharon, if you've been paying attention to anything online, you probably already know what that moment is. But
I've seen it. I think the moment that people talk about.
Yeah.
Because even though they say no spoilers, they then put an image and they do a screenshot, and you go, "Oh, so you mean that screenshot is not the spoiler then?"
It's like, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but this moment made me go, ah, and the screenshot. You're like,
yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You obviously do not understand the words you are saying. All right, cool. So, okay. Sharon, I've just gone on for a while. Shaun had a little bit of Shaun joined me a little bit in that, talking about WandaVision. So we'll give you the honor of the first thing, bringing of the first thing that we're going to review this week. And what is that?
That is the latest Netflix release, Tom Hanks in News of the World.
Right. So, okay, Thomas, so you have once again been a very good Netflix girl, and you have listened to what you've been told, or they've pushed in your face and said, watch this, and you went, okay,
yeah. And it's literally on the television magazine I buy every week for my mum, because she doesn't get the hang of like searching for it on the telly, so we buy her a magazine.
Oh yeah.
And it was on the front page of the magazine, and we were like, yeah, okay, sold.
All right, so this is
we'll follow the clickbait.
Yeah, so this is Tom Hanks and Paul Greengrass reuniting after Captain Phillips. So tell us, what is this about? Is this really actually a sordid tale of a mid-90s Sunday morning tabloid?
No, fortunately for us, it's not got the page 3 girl and scandal on every page.
Yeah.
So anyone who's expecting sauciness and scandal, this is not the film for you.
All right.
But if you want something a bit more intelligent, but with a few spills and thrills along the way, then this is something for you. So this is a Tom Hanks film. I don't know, you'll know, Shawnee, about this one. If Tom Hanks has done many westerns before. I could not picture him in western mode.
No, I don't. No, I can't think of one.
No.
This is not a full-on western, but it is basically.
I don't know if Toy Story would count because he's a cowboy. But,
he's a cowboy in that.
No, he hasn't done any westerns. I'm pretty sure of that.
Good call. Good call.
So that's his closest. But so this is set in 1870. He is a retired Confederate former captain, and his name is Captain, I think, something like
Phillips
Jefferson something Kidd. So he is Captain Kidd. And he came home from the wars. Things were not as he had left them. Obviously, he being Southern, the South, he was from Texas. The South was being reconstructed. And so he basically took to the road. He was an educated man. He was a printer. And he was passionate about words and about stories. So he made a living by subscribing to newspapers from all over the country and occasionally the world, and basically taking them from town to town and reading the stories to a largely illiterate and ignorant public. So he would say, if you want to know what's going on in the world or what's going on in the next village over, because there's before the days of, the telegrams were only for communicating, major news stories, you were basically cut off and isolated within your own community. So he took to the road and just read the newspapers to people, and they would come along and they would pay him to hear him, almost like sort of Charles Dickens did his dramatic readings of his novels. It's a similar thing where he would take a newspaper heading and say, "This week in Pennsylvania," and he would sell it as a showman, basically. So on one of his journeys, he comes across a ruined wagon, and he finds a man who has been lynched. And examining the scene of this event, he comes across a young child, a little blonde girl, who is not tiny. She's about sort of 10 stroke 11. So she's not a little girl, but she speaks no English. And from what words he can get out of her, she only speaks Kiowa.
Okay.
Which was a Plains tribe in the American West.
Yeah, so one of the Native American tribe languages.
One of the Native American tribes, yeah. And so he examines the wreckage of this wagon, and he finds the papers that say that the man that was hanged was a government agent. He was an Indian agent, and this girl had been recovered from a Kiowa village and was being taken back to white civilization, and they have identified that she may still have some living relatives. She had been captured in a Kiowa raid 6 years before. So from the age of about 2.5, 3, she had lived with the Kiowa, and she was now being taken back to her, what they've identified as being her German relatives, who are homesteading in the south of Texas. So he takes this young girl to the nearest army fort, and they say, well, with the death of that Indian agent, we don't have any other Indian agents. She can either wait here for 3 months, and we've got no one to look after her. And if you want to look after her, you can stay with her for 3 months till the next Indian agent comes along, or you can take her yourself to where her family are. And that's what he decides to do. He decides to take her through Texas on his journey. He's going to keep doing his readings and take her back to her own relatives.
Do you know
and that's where the story is progressive.
So do you know if it's based on a true story?
I think it's based on a novel. I don't think it's based on a true story. At the very end, I always scroll where the source material is on the credits, is before they go very tiny and then disappear.
Yeah.
I'm like waiting.
Yeah.
And yes, it did say based on a novel by, so I think it is fictitious.
All right, cool.
But it's something that you think could have happened. And then there's on this journey again, it's like a little bit of an odyssey, a bit like Hostiles. It reminded me of where you get these little incidents along the way. You have a journey, and that journey is not just a physical one. It's a multi-layered.
It's thematic, and it's spiritual, and it's redemption, and it's you encounter these obstacles and different things that, as well as being an obstacle to overcome, there's a lesson to be learned in each one of them. Yeah.
And so there's moments of drama, action, violence, tension, fear. So you have these encounters along the way, and as they get on their journey.
Oh.
And so yes, you follow this unlikely coupling as they go to their.
Is this a movie or a series, Sharon?
A film. It's a 2-hour film.
Right. Okay. Cool. Sounds quite intriguing.
It does sound intriguing. And now you've set a high bar by mentioning Hostiles, a film that all three of us, not many people have seen, but all three of us absolutely love and think is a genius film. Yeah. So how is this film?
I would rate it as a quality film, actually.
Yeah.
I think didn't feel that there was anything wasted in it. Because how sometimes when you've got the American landscape, especially the West, you can edge into self-indulgence, where they look at the landscape and they go, just look at the landscape, let the landscape tell the story. And I don't think they had any of that. I think this was like, when you looked at the landscape, you see it in connection to the people who are playing who are the center of your story. So you see it in terms of their isolation, or in terms of their struggle to survive. And so it has a role other than just being pretty. So I didn't think there was anything was wasted in it, and where it was needed to be dramatic, it was dramatic, and where it needed to be a bit more thoughtful, it was. It didn't tell you what to feel by the over-egging the music or over-egging the sentiment.
Yeah.
But you were keeping pace with it. So I thought, yes, in terms of characterization, pacing, and landscape and setting, to me it all worked.
How many?
And so
Yes.
I liked it, so I'd give it a 4-star film. I would rate it a solid 4-star. I didn't just creep in there. To me, it was a solid 4-star.
Yeah.
My only reservation was, this is a small thing, and this was just because of when we watched it. I watched it with my mum, and we watched it on a smaller television set.
Yep.
And we found, because it used natural lighting, so where it was candlelight, it wasn't like fully illuminated rooms.
Yeah.
Some of the rooms were quite murky, and so both of me and my mum were sort of peering, going, "Can you see what's going on? I can't see what's going on. Can you tell who's talking? Who's that?" And so every now and then we'd be like, if we'd been on a bigger screen, probably a better quality screen, you would have seen the depth of it. But to us, it was a bit of a murk. Yeah, and I think that was more about our landscape, our environment, than what we thought was filmed.
Made for a cinema screen.
I think so. I think this was not by no means a direct. I don't think this was the intended platform for this film.
Yeah. I
think they intended it to be for better things. So it was a quality, but it was a quality film. I think it was a solid 4, worth a watch.
All right. Yeah. Good stuff. It's funny though, because the way you were talking about him going around and speaking to places from place to place, Shaun, it reminded me of you remember the Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
Yeah.
Another Western movie, and that's like a whole bunch of little vignettes, and one of them is about somebody who goes from town to town and does like almost sort of Shakespearean readings, and how that was their cinema. That was the cinema where they would gather together and they listen to this person because they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, what have you got? Yeah, tell us all about it." Right.
And there's one particular scene I won't go into detail on, but you can see how you can use words to sort of affect quite a dramatic change and
very powerful.
We've seen it, with like the impeachment thing that's going on in America, how a phrase can be taken and then people run with it. And so it was interesting to see this sort of almost like a parallel in this film about someone who uses one phrase and everyone goes, "Oh, yeah!" and it triggers more than you'd expect.
Yeah. Good.
Power of words.
Good stuff. I didn't realize. I knew that was coming, but I did not realize it had been released. So
it was out. It was released yesterday, so it was literally.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
I had the alert ping on my phone to say, "This is a film that you might want to watch."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "You're right. It is."
For once, that is actually something I want.
I do not want to watch the 50 other series you sent me, but that film I will.
All right, cool. Because I was beginning to worry that WandaVision had dragged me away from Netflix, because I feel like with WandaVision, Disney Plus are bringing out some big guns. Disney Plus are going like, "Yeah, Netflix, we're coming for you." All right, so let's see. We have 8 minutes. Shaun, do you reckon that we can finally talk about King of Staten Island, which you've been holding over for like 2 weeks?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could go about that. Have you seen it now?
I have seen the King of Staten Island.
You've seen it, yeah. Okay, well, the reason I watched this is because I'd never seen the film before. I'd never seen the 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? Until really recently. I'd never seen that film. So, and because it was one that I didn't think would appeal to me, but I found it I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed this film, and this is done by the same director,
Judd Apatow.
And, Judd Apatow. And it's funny. I had to keep watching it, and I wouldn't say, I couldn't work out whether it was a comedy. I think it was a comedy, but then it had some serious undertones and all that. Yeah. But it was compelling watching. It was compelling watching. And I sort of had to watch it, and I thought the acting was pretty cool. I don't know the guy who played
Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd not really. I don't think I'd seen him in anything before. So, I may have, but not that I recognised him. So, and then there's a comedian who plays Ray, who I did recognise.
Bill Burr, yeah.
Yeah. So he's been in a few bits. But I thought this was a really decent film. It was watchable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was mind blowing, but it was certainly a watchable movie. I suppose the story is. Do you want me to say the story a bit, or do you want to do the story?
Well, yeah. I think the thing is, Judd Apatow, he specializes almost in sort of slacker humor or Arrested Development humor, where there are men who you think you should be more mature than you are right now. And so the central character of Scott is played by Pete Davidson. and he is a guy whose dad was a firefighter, and his dad died when he was quite young. And he died. His dad died when he was 7. He's now 24 years old. But that is his excuse for never doing anything in his life. He's like, my dad died. How do you expect me to do anything? My dad died. I'm still living at home. My dad died. That's why essentially his junior sister, who barely knew their dad, is about to go off to university, and she's scared about leaving the house because she's like, are you going to be okay? And this is his junior sister, who's probably about 7 years his junior. And she's like, are you going to be okay? Because, I'm going to leave you here. Are you going to be good to mom? Are you going to? And she's worried about that because this guy is just like he is. And so far, so much it sounds like many of the other Judd Apatow movies. It sounds a little bit like Knocked Up. It sounds like or these guys, there's a group of friends. They just sit around and they get high and they do nothing. And they have no ambition in life. Isn't there anything good? And so that's why especially when he had Pete Davidson, because he is on Saturday Night Live. That's the thing that he's probably most best known for, Saturday Night Live, and he's a little bit one-note. He's also known for being engaged to Ariana Grande, who is... Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, Shaun, you might know who that is. Shaun, I'm not sure if you know who Ariana Grande is, but she's...
I only know her because of the Manchester bombings. I don't know her music.
Yeah, you don't know her music. So you know that she's kind of like, the Madonna of today. So, it's like...
Oh, wow. I had no idea she was that big.
She is. She's pretty big. So it's kind of like, in the 80s when Madonna got engaged to Sean Penn and everybody all of a sudden went, who's Sean Penn? Even though people... and it's a bit like Pete Davidson. It's like he got engaged to Ariana Grande and everybody was like, who's Pete Davidson? And it never went anywhere. But that's what he's best known for. But I've always found him a little bit one note. I found him a little bit one note in a lot of things he's done. So that's why this film, when it was released, I heard a lot of things about it. People were like, oh my God, this is actually good. It's actually really good. It's a really, really good performance from Pete Davidson. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen the guy do anything different from his usual shtick. He's somebody who has the shtick, and yeah, I'm not sure I like it.
That's the first time I've really seen him in anything. So, but I can see he was pretty much. I could see actually him being like same sort of character and other stuff. It's quite a good observation because he's got a unique look about him. So I mean,
he does. He
probably wouldn't be able to play anyone else. I don't expect, and he'd have to play that sort of role because he has got a pretty unique look.
You wouldn't cast it. You wouldn't cast him as an action star. You wouldn't cast him as a matinee idol. He does. No. He doesn't have that. Nobody looks like. Yeah, nobody looks like Pete Davidson. Nobody.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's. I mean, I thought the rest of the acting was pretty good, and it was nice to see old Steve Buscemi.
Yes,
I haven't seen him for a while. Yeah, it was nice to see him in it. And I sort of, I don't know if how realistic it would be that they could do that. You know what I mean?
There's a whole thing about the fire station and all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would be. I mean, possibly. I mean, it depends, I suppose, how relaxed things were and all that. But and there was quite a funny scene on the beach with the little nipper. Oh, come here. So that quite amused me. The bit I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know the bit. I know exactly the bit you're talking about. It's entirely irresponsible. It is entirely like the height. You're watching it going, no, you cannot do that.
You cannot do that.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that to a kid. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But, I mean, it had moments, but yeah, your observation with him, playing.
Well, the thing is, because I've seen him in other stuff, but I have to say, I actually think this is the best I've ever seen him because he brought nuances to that sort of slacker character that I haven't seen him do anywhere else. When you do a little bit of digging behind the film, he plays a character called Scott, and it turns out that in real life, Pete Davidson's dad was called Scott because at the end of the film it says dedicated to Scott Davidson. And the whole thing in the film is that this guy has an Arrested Development and he blames it on the fact that his dad died when he was young, and his dad is a fireman, and his dad died by going into a building to save people, and then the ceiling fell down in on him. Pete Davidson's father was called Scott, was a fireman, and died in the line of duty. So so I think a lot of this film is sort of like semi-autobiographical. He's from Staten Island, hence the title of the film, King of Staten Island. And I thought that it brings something very, as I said, it's kind of nuanced, as you say, Shaun. It's kind of one of those films where nothing much happens, but at the same time, you find yourself being drawn in, and you find yourself being drawn in by the performances and by the situations and by the fact that, what's going on. His mom starts seeing somebody and he starts acting out like a little child, and what's that going to go in? But the moments where it tries to be touching and it tries to bring everything back together really, really work. For me, they really, really work when they're bringing people back together and they're saying, okay, fine, I know this is, and even the bit where he has to, if you're going to tell a story like this, he's going to have to come out of his Arrested Development at some point. The bit where he starts coming out of it doesn't feel as hackneyed. I mean, there's still a little bit of Hollywood schmaltz thrown in there, but it doesn't feel as bad. It feels like, okay, yeah, that I could imagine that would happen with these sort of characters. But I think I agree with you, Shaun. I think the performances are great uniformly. I think Bill Burr, brilliant. Pete Davidson, Marissa Tomei. Oh my God, I would watch anything with Marissa.
Yeah. She's great in everything, isn't she?
She's really brilliant in everything. She's brilliant in everything. She plays his mom, and an actress called Belle Powley. Who?
Oh, she's British, isn't she?
She's British, but she plays a Staten Island native in this, and I think she does really well. So I can't speak about the accuracy of her Staten Island accent, but I kept trying to catch out knowing that she's British. I kept trying to catch her slipping into something British or something where I can go, yeah, she's English. Yeah, you're not from Staten Island. You're from Leicester or wherever it is she's from. And I couldn't do it. I mean, she was just really, really. I thought she was really convincing in it. In these sort of films, it's all about the men, so she doesn't have that much to do. But what she does in the small time when she's on screen, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I've got this. I've got this. So I think it's one of these films it's quite slight, but they managed to get quite a bit in there, and they managed to tell a good story of a group of people that. And Judd Apatow, one of his things was he would. Oh God, I just thought of something. Yeah, Judd Apatow was always really good at combining the fart with the heart.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of thing he would do. So you watch Knocked Up, there'll be gross out bits, but then there'll be a bit where it's all his films are usually often about a man-child growing up a little bit. That's what it is. And I think this is like a different wrinkle, a different string to his bow of that type of film. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was brilliant. I would give it. I think I'll have to give it a 4 out of 5.
You give it a 4, yeah. I would probably. I mean, I would give it a solid 3. Yeah. I would give it a solid 3 for me. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was compelling watching. It wasn't like super mind blowing, but it was it was watchable. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel there was anything really untoward or So I mean, a solid 3.
Yeah, because I mean, when you say that there's nothing much happening in it, if you were going to summarize the plot of the film, it's man-child grows up a little bit.
Yeah, that's it.
that is the plot of the film. Man-child grows up a little bit. So it's but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at it because I mean I think if it wasn't for you, Shaun, I don't think I would have watched it, even though I'd heard it was good. I just couldn't believe it was. So yeah. All right, now we go on to a film that I saw. I think we both saw that on Sky Cinema, didn't we? Sky Cinema on Now TV.
Yeah, Sky, Sky, yeah.
And there's another film I saw on Now TV because I was watching. There is a YouTube channel called What Culture, and they do these sort of when you see YouTube videos such as like the top 10 horror movie deaths.
Or Looper and all that.
Yeah. It's essentially okay. So there's Looper. Looper is more American, and What Culture.
I watch Looper quite a lot.
Yeah, What Culture is British. So What Culture is
right. Okay, cool.
What Culture is British, and they had a list that said the top 10 films that were released in 2020 that disappeared or that you didn't really hear much about because there weren't really cinemas about, so films weren't getting that. But they're like, these are the best films that we saw that were released there. And because now, Shaun, there was a film called Spree that you watched that you were not too hot on.
Yeah,
you remember?
That's right.
And Spree was part of the list. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But there was a film that they had called Mortal, which I decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a go because I could actually find it. It's on Now TV. So I watched Mortal, and this is it's pretty much half Norwegian, half English. And the whole idea behind it is that it starts off and you're in Norway, And this guy wakes up in the middle of a forest. You can see that he's been living rough for a while, has like a big beard, long hair, all that. And he wakes up and you can see he's having trouble like in his dream or anything. That when he wakes up, the forest is on fire. Forest is on fire around him, and you can see that almost as if he feels this has something to do with him. And you see that he raises up his leg, and his leg is charred. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? And it carries on that he breaks into a pharmacy, he gets some stuff, he tries to clean himself up, he tries to clean up his wounds, and he's like limping along, and some sort of like, Norwegian teenagers sort of drive past him in the car and go, hey, what's wrong with you? Hey, we're talking to you. And they start trying to bully him a bit. And he tells one of the guys, he's like, if you touch me again, you'll burn. And the guy's like, yeah, what? And touches him and then falls down dead. And yeah. And so they're going, what the heck's going on? They take him to a police station. They bring in a psychologist to sort of work with him and to try and figure out what is going on with this guy. How come this kid died? What did you do to the kid? And as it goes along, it shows up that this guy has started developing some sort of abilities that he doesn't know how to control. He doesn't know what they're about. He's an American, which is where all the English comes in. He's an American with a Norwegian roots who came to visit his family. And there is this story about 2 years ago, he was at a farm with his family, and there was a fire, and everybody died but him. Like and so what it turns out as it goes on is that they think that he might be a reincarnation of a Norse god. And this made me think a little bit of the TV show that you watched, Sharon, Ragnarok.
Yes, Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that when you were saying about Norway. I was thinking, sounds like my Norwegian program I saw.
Yeah, I know. It sounds... I think these might have come from the same brainstorming session, because that was about Norwegian people pretty much taking their mythology and giving you their take on their gods and not leaving it all up to Marvel. And and this, I think, has a very sort of similar sensibility. It's kind of like, when you have a Scandinavian noir TV show and you have all these people who look like, they look TV ready but craggy at the same time, all in this lovely chunky knit jumpers. And so it looks like, imagine if you tried to make a superhero movie in a Scandinavian noir setting. So like in The Killing or Bergen or The Bridge or something like that. This is what you would make. This film is directed by a guy called Andre Odreval, I think is how you pronounce it. And he is the guy who directed a film called Troll Hunter. I'm not sure whether you guys remember
I loved Troll Hunter.
Yeah, I love Troll Hunter too.
Yeah, he's the same guy who directed...
Troll! That was clever. That was a clever movie. I like that.
It was.
Yeah, and you can see elements of that kind of approach in this, where, you take something like... Because Troll Hunter was all about Norse legend and Norse mythology, and feeding it into like modern day ways, like all those stories we were telling you, they were actually true. That kind of, and this has something like, I don't think it's as effective as Troll Hunter. I think it drags a bit. I think Nat Wolff, who plays the American, it has that feeling like we shoved an American in this so people would watch it. So because
no one's going to watch just a Norwegian film.
Yeah, no one's just going to watch a Norwegian film with subtitles. And because I'm watching a film going, there's absolutely no reason for this guy to be American whatsoever. Yeah. There's no reason for him to be American whatsoever. But the way they go about it, and the way that, there's a subplot where Americans show up, and the thinking behind the American show, when Americans show, they just want to go and shoot everything. And there's the thinking behind the Americans showing up there saying like, look, if this guy is actually a reincarnation of a Norse god, think about all the Christians in the world, think about all the Muslims in the world. They are going to lose it. So, pretty much they're going to lose it if it turns out that they were wrong and this Norse thing is actually right and this god actually does exist. So in other words, we can't let him exist, we can't let him survive. Is the way they go about it. But at the same time, you have this thing where people are beginning to believe, like the local police chief, he's beginning to wonder. He talks about believing in God and all that, and he keeps looking and going, is this what we're thinking that's going on? Is this what? And okay, let's have a look. And you have all these. Then you have when the news starts getting out with social media and everything like that, you start having people who start coming and asking for this guy to touch them and all the while the guy's just trying to figure out what's happening to him, and he's trying to get back to the farm where it all started because he thinks there might be something there. And with the other week we were talking about UK films versus US films and endings and all that, and this is such a Norwegian film because the way the point at which the film ends, no American film's gonna end there. People would burn the cinema down. I mean, it's like no. But the point at which it ends, I actually quite like the way it ends. I like their take on the sort of Norse mythology, and because the things you've seen of Norse gods, it's I'm trying not to give away what the Norse god is, but then again, if you think about it, there is one Norse god that stands out above all the others that everybody knows about, and the way they do it, it's. The way I'll say it, it's done in a very Scandi noir way. It's not done in a spandex flashy way. It's done in a very this is his costume, and his costume looks like he could just be a blacksmith or something like that. Yeah. So I thought it was quite good. I think it's a 3 out of 5. As I said, not as good as Troll Hunter. I think it's quite slow. I think there's an hour that goes on before anything really goes on, but I feel like that might just be the Norwegian way of telling stories. Because even with Troll Hunter, I remember thinking that it was good and everything, but there were some times I was watching Troll Hunter thinking, okay, this is dragging on a bit. Where are we going with this thing? So I would give Mortal 3 out of 5. But if you can catch that on Sky Cinema, I think it's worth a watch. And now we come to our final. Sorry, Sharon.
No, I was going to say I'll write it down because I tend to, as we've said before, sometimes we do a film review and we go, well, someone's watched that, I don't need to watch it.
Yeah.
And so I have got my trusty pen and my trusty notebook.
Yeah.
And so I'll write that down.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely planning to go find News of the World. And now, Shaun, we get to you.
Yes.
For the second film for you this week. What you said is it a film or a TV series?
It's a film. It's a film. It's on Sky Cinema again.
All right.
And it's a recent one. I think it was one that was probably due to be released at the cinema, but obviously they released it. And it's called The 24th.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes place in it's about a black regiment of soldiers basically that have been stationed in Houston. And it's 1917, so a lot of people have gone off to the war. And there's one bit which I think was taken straight out of Glory. Really, you've got you've got quite a northern educated non-commissioned officer like a corporal, and obviously you've got someone who's come from a really horrible background. So originally there's a bit of animosity between them, because he says, "Oh, you're one of these privileged ones. You're blah 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 blah," and but obviously they sort of as they begin to respect each other for their different backgrounds. And the commanding officer, who's really, really sympathetic, because they don't get treated particularly well by the townspeople, and even the townspeople, law people, they do not. They've got to be really careful. They go into town one day and one of them gets arrested and beaten up.
Well, yeah. Well, being black in America in 1917.
Exactly. So you're in Houston, you're in Texas, and there's absolutely no respect at all. Anyway, the commanding officer, who's sort of in charge, shall we say, he has to go away. That he gets another posting, and there's this horrible sort of junior officer, which doesn't like, he doesn't like him anyway. He's really cruel and horrible and beats him and that. But anyway, cut a long story short, there's this incident that goes on in town where one of the soldiers gets beaten up, and then it gets back that he's been killed, and there's another one that has gone to a house to sort of hide because and they start to get really, really worried. This regiment gets really, really worried.
Yep.
So in the end, the sergeant says to them, I mean, it's based on a true story apparently. Right, okay, let's. You can read all about it, so it's not really spoiled. Anyway, so the soldiers, he goes, right, let's get the arms. And the young officer saying, no, put them back. And that. But anyway, and then they just march into town and cause a bit of havoc in the actual town itself. So they go, and then there's obviously the aftermath, because there's all the inquiry, I mean, basically what happens is they shoot some National Guard peeps, so they're not like shooting the nasty people. They accidentally, and then they suddenly realise what's gone on. Of course, they're a military unit, so they're quite, as they march through the town, they're like, okay, up.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so that's basically the story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this was I seem to be watching a lot of movies like with that sort of culture now, but it was, I mean, this was a terrific movie. It was the acting was first class. I think there was some moments taken out of Glory. They borrowed from Glory, especially the scene with the educated. But yeah, I think I would really, really like you to watch this, Toes. I'd really like you to watch this, because I think and Sharon as well. I think would be worth a watch for that. So I mean, this had everything. This had drama. Pardon?
Is it entirely set in America?
Yes, it's in Houston. Yeah, no, these soldiers they've not gone to Europe at all. I mean, they do sing the song over there, over. So they're, but they've been stationed in Houston, and obviously they're not particularly made to feel welcome at all.
Yeah. Well, so. No. That is, once you said this is a film, and you said 24th, you said all black regiment of soldiers. I was like, okay, yep, I want to see this, because I feel like this is this based on a true story? I'm trying to find out. Okay, anyway, I'm like, there's a certain type of story that I've spoken about this being black. I mean, there's a certain type of story that I feel needs to be told, but at the moment I don't particularly feel I need to watch.
So, right. Okay.
Yeah. So like, if you said, it's about like a black guy who got like falsely accused already, I'm like, no, I've seen that film. I've seen that film a lot of times. I don't need to see that film. But when you said that, but there's areas where it's kind of like, where there's almost this thing where it's like black people have been erased from history of the things that they did. And when you said 1917, all black squad, I was like, okay, fine. Now this is something that I want to see. This is something that, this is the kind of black story that I'm ready to watch. But
So, I mean, I think it's it's very factual. It's not like either one side or the other. The portrayals are just like, I could imagine. To me, this was a realistic film as well. It wasn't like, there wasn't like these moments where I go, I cross my legs and huff and puff and go, oh, no,
it's not the Five Bloods.
Yeah. So I mean, this was, you could imagine, because. Yeah, I mean, it must have been a terrifying time. It must have been a really, really terrifying time, because, the townspeople more or less, even though the lawmen, they're more or less, there's one scene where the soldier actually arrests someone who's not particularly good and takes him to the police station and says, I want you to arrest this man. And they're like, no, we're not arrested. Do you know what I mean?
There's moments like that. A black man, who do you think you are, trying to arrest one of us?
And I mean, to be fair to the marshal, he did say, let's take him in, but he didn't get charged or anything. But do you know what I mean? It was a case of, they were like horrified that this soldier, black soldier had arrested someone.
Well,
and he's supposed to be respected. He's a soldier. He's a United States. He's a soldier. He's respected, and it's like.
It's one of those things where they, and it's I can imagine it. The whole idea is that you've been told these are the rules, play by these rules, and things will be fine. And you do everything, you play by the rules, you go there, you dedicate yourself to your country, you do all that, and at the end of the day, they still think, no, you're not supposed to be here. Like there's Kanye West, the musician. He is a lot of the time he's an idiot. But there's some ways in which he's a bit like Lord Byron, because Lord Byron, brilliant poet, but as a human being, an idiot.
Not particularly nice. Yeah, bit like Picasso as well.
And I feel like Kanye West is a little bit like that, because he says things like he'll write a song and he'll put something in the song and you're like, oh my god, that is so poetic, that is so good. Then he'll open his mouth and say something in real life and you'll be like, No, why? And there's a song he has on his first album called All Falls Down, where he sort of he mentions that, and he encapsulates that in a song, where there's a bit where he talks about trying to get ahead in America, trying to get all the things, and then he talks about getting to the top, and he has this line where he goes, even if you're in a Benz, you're still an N-word in a coupe. And it's really that kind of idea. And I think that a lot of what we've seen over the last year has been people going, well, we tried to do it the way you said we should do it. We did all that stuff, and still we're not being treated like we're part of this country. So thanks for that, Shaun. That is one I did not know about. I'm going to go find 24th, and I'm going to stop. I'll get off my soapbox right now and stop doing that. But how many stars would you give it?
4 stars. Solid
Stars.
4 stars. Great 4 stars.
4 stars for
really,
the 24th.
Terrific. As I say, I think it should have been shown at the cinema. So, you know.
There's a lot of films that are popping up here and there that I'm actually thinking, this was so meant for the cinema. Like there's a film on Amazon Prime at the moment called Greenland with Gerald Butler.
Yeah, I've heard about that. About that. It's supposed to be. Someone else said that. Yeah, they said about that. That'd be. Yeah,
it's supposed to be good. This is essentially.
And it's Gerald Butler.
I know, it's Gerald Butler.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
It's Gerald Butler, and it's a bit like with King of Staten Island, where I heard it was good, but I refuse to believe that it could be.
Yeah,
it's a bit like they go, it's Gerald Butler. What's happening in it? Well, the world's ending. There's big, massive asteroids falling out of the sky. We're like, oh my god, we have seen this film. So,
and there's someone to rescue a child, possibly.
Yeah. I remember seeing the trailer for this and going, hang on. Isn't this Geostorm? Isn't this the film he made?
I was going to say, Geostorm, yeah.
I remember, it's like, but that's a film that once you see the production, once you see the trailer, you straight up go, this was supposed to be on a big screen. They made this to be on a big screen, and the pandemic has screwed those plans up. And what I think will be interesting, whatever shape or form we have cinema in when it comes back, I wonder if some of the films that have been released on home home entertainment but never got a chance to be in the cinema, I wonder whether they're going to get like a weekend or something like that in cinemas.
Yeah, well, they'll suddenly go, you know what, these pandemic films deserve a watch. If I suddenly disappear, it's because I forgot to charge my phone earlier, and I'm down to about 3%. So you've all gone very dim. So keep going, but I may suddenly disappear.
No, bro, we will wrap up in this moment, but I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that they should have Pandemic Films Week or something like that. You go to cinema, and these are all the films that were supposed to have been in the cinema, but never got a chance and had to be released on home. I would so be there. News of the world on the big screen. Yes, please. Yes, please. I'll take my money. We need to keep you guys going. Anyway, until next week when we might watch Gerald Butler trying to punch an asteroid in the face or something. I don't know what it is. It's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for listening. Please do get in touch.